Hey everybody, my name is Darryl, and this is Deion. Welcome to Where We Stand, a series where we talk about the games we've recently played and how much we've enjoyed them. Today we're talking about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC. Now that we're queued up and ready to go, let's get started.
So first, we're going to talk a little bit about the story. For me, this game, I think the story is where it really stands out in a lot of places. But one thing to really mention is that it starts off a little slow. It's not like you start and there's like this big go and then it keeps going away. No, you start. There's a nice beginning. The beginning is very exciting. But once you get to that, you get through that first planet, Baraka, I believe what it's called.
Yeah.
Once you're on that planet and you get started, you get that beautiful intro. It's exciting, and you get discovered. You're running away because you're, discovered Jedi. Like that's super exciting. Then it slows down and really takes you to Bogano is the first planet that it takes you after, and you go a little bit slower and you slow your pace. And I thought that was okay. I really enjoyed that first push that really puts you into Star Wars and you feel like a Jedi. You got the lightsaber, which for me, I love Star Wars, and it just puts you in there like really quickly, ready to go.
Yeah.
And then it goes to that slower pace, which I think follows what we've known to expect from Star Wars, right? Star Wars doesn't have just big battle action. There's always the slow, methodical pace that Star Wars has, I believe. I know you felt the same about the beginning, right?
Yeah, Star Wars has a habit of, really emphasizing spectacle after really initiating the pace or setting the pace and whatnot. On Braca, I'm pretty sure that was the intro planet where you're essentially where Cal, that's the main character's name, is doing his average everyday job, just kind of scraping by while also remaining undercover. This all takes place shortly after. It takes place after the Order, a few years after 66, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So it's still pre Luke Skywalker, but post 66. The first planet was like it. I know that Bogano is like the tutorial planet in a way where it teaches you more about the combat and this and the other, or at least trains you, because it doesn't throw all the enemies at you. You don't have big set pieces like that on Bogano, whereas Braca, the first planet, quote unquote, you can't go back to it. The first area you're in, they teach you in a very Uncharted style how to climb and how to do this, how to do that, because Cal can't just get places normally. He's like, no, I got it. I can just do this and this and this and this. He's leapfrogging everywhere, and then eventually, he is caught in this and other, using the Force and etc. His friend has to die because his friend does. Friends die in Star Wars a lot. You don't befriend a Jedi, and then eventually he's rescued by I think her name is Sarian Grease, or Grease. I don't know. I like saying Grease. Going back to Bogano, though, you're essentially there, and from there moving on to each planet to find breadcrumb pieces left over by Sari's master, whose name escapes me at the moment. And these things will help you find, well, the strength and the power you need to really fight back against the Empire.
Right.
The Empire in this case being, or at least the main antagonist in the sense for the Empire being Trilla, which we'll get to later, but go for it.
Right, and I want to jump off that. When you say you're getting those powers, what's happening really is you're rediscovering those powers because you were on the run for, I forgot, they do tell you how long it was. I forget exactly the amount of time, but you're on the run after Order 66, after your master died, and it takes you back into those powers. Like as you go to these different planets, you get these cutscenes where you're going back and back to your master, and you're a little kid, and you're like learning Padawan learning, and it teaches you these different things and different powers. But the funny part about that is I don't understand why he's in a space capsule the whole time. But I thought that was real interesting. I mean, not a capsule. It's not a ship, but like, is this one little training room?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know Jedi were trained like that. So it was an interesting new piece of lore, I would say.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't know that, so it was really cool. It was different.
There were a lot of cool tidbits like that in the game that, it kind of reminds me of how Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man 2018, I didn't have to add the year, where how that kind of explained, oh, that's where Stark, Industries is. That's where the Black Panther and that's where Black Panther and all them are, or this is what Doctor Strange's estate and whatnot. I liked seeing those tidbits of lore in the world, so I relate that to Star Wars, to Fallen Order, in the sense of I enjoyed, just a little tidbits of information here, like when you get to, I forgot what planet that is. I think it's Ilum, later on, where you go there because you have to repair your lightsaber or whatnot because it breaks. Well, you broke it in rage, or Cal broke it in rage, for rightfully so. Once that memory came back up, of course it's gonna do that. You're gonna get angry about it. He has to go back there to repair his lightsaber, but in the meantime, he's explaining how, this room is where Master Yoda, melted the ice using the the thingy up there. I'm like, he name dropped Yoda, and earlier they, Obi-Wan even had a cameo, sort of, kind of, in the, I don't know what you call that thing in Star Wars. It's essentially just like that holotape or whatever it is.
Yeah, the holotape inside of a droid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to how it was in A New Hope, right?
Yeah, basically. So I thought all that was cool, but before we get too far into that, the first major planet you come across is Zepho, and I thought Zepho. Honestly, that's not my favorite. It's not my favorite planet, but it had a lot of. You had a lot of stuff you had to do there because Zepho was big, very big, and crawling with stormtroopers, which in this game they don't miss. Which I think betrays the formula, but whatever. How did you feel about the stormtroopers?
The stormtroopers were
as an enemy type.
I think it was a good take on them. Honestly, they're a little dumb as expected. They can't hit shots, and they had very fun and interesting banter between the different stormtroopers.
I love that.
They really did a good job with that, and I think they really captured how Star Wars thinks of stormtroopers in general, and I mean it's pretty great. And Zepho really highlights that first, and then as you go to these different planets, you start understanding and a little bit about the planets. It was Zepho, which you go back to twice. I agree, not my favorite. Kashyyyk, I love Kashyyyk, really awesome.
Yes,
you meet some really awesome characters there.
The Wookiees looked weird.
What is?
The Wookiees still look weird to me.
Wookiees look weird. We'll talk about the Wookiees in a little bit. Ilum, I thought Ilum was a really cool planet, snowy planet. We all know Ilum, and there's some nice little tidbits there with Ilum, and then Dothrmir, which I hated the most, which is the planet where the Night Sisters and Darth Maul, originated from there. So that's where Dothrmir is, and you go there, and this is after the Clone Wars have ravaged the planet, and all those sisters got attacked. If you want to watch Clone Wars, watch it. Great series. And then Muir, which is your final encounter, which is like this underground base. So that's kind of a little bit about the planets. I mean, I think Kashyyyk is probably my favorite. Definitely, I think 100%. I just love the greenery. I hate the spiders. I can't deal with the spiders. But everything else about the planet is amazing. You climb up the tree and you just see out in the world. It's stunning. I love it.
Yeah, I think that that the slow burn the story has with just getting to know characters and whatnot, and this and the other. It the way it progresses from planet to planet, it kind of fits the tone for that moment. And whatnot for where everyone is. And I think Ilum really communicates that very well, because strangely enough, even though it's pretty obvious that you're typically alone on these planets, not counting Saray and Grease, and eventually what's her name,
Night Sister Marin.
Was that her?
What are you referring to?
Yeah,
Yes.
Marin. And eventually her, because she does eventually join you. Aside from them, you typically are just on your own when you leave the ship. Like, she's freaking powerful. She could just, nope, too busy chilling and eating steak. That's fine. I guess I'll kill these spiders by myself.
Guess I'll do it by myself, you freaking ship.
Yep.
They want to stay in that ship.
But either way around, when you're on Ilum and you in that moment where Cal is essentially at his lowest, you really get that sense of loneliness from just how barren the planet is. Like, the stormtroopers in them aren't even there yet, so you really are by yourself.
Oh yeah, it's
in that moment, and it's actually really cool. But from there, we're gonna move on to the cast of characters. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, there's one more part. First of all, I just want to highlight the tone that you're talking about in general. I think the tone is like they really stick. You get a tone of the game, and you really feel the tone. But I really wanted to talk a little bit about kind of towards the ending. So spoiler alerts, of course.
Yeah, spoilers.
You get the slow burn, but the ending is also just phenomenal, right? Like you just makes your heart pound. So you go into Nur, that final planet that we're talking about. You swim underwater, which is awesome, by the way. Going underwater, kind of experiencing that, which is completely different than what you've experienced. And then you get into their little base, and it's basically a corridor. You basically go through corridors, and then you fight the final boss, who is the second sister, which we'll talk a little bit more strongly about her in a bit. But you fight her, and then the guy comes, Darth Vader, and he is the most powerful thing ever. It's just so strong. Like they cannot even handle his power. I mean, he's like ripping the world apart as you run away. It is so phenomenal. The way they did it, it's extremely great. And then to see like Sarah come back and attack him and try to win, and he's just not having it.
Yeah, I'm sitting when he showed up. When Trilla was getting force choked, because of course he's Darth Vader. Of course he's gonna.
That's what he does.
That's what he does. I could go with a lot of really stupid jokes right now, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna hold those back. But the moment he started force choking her, and you saw him slowly appear behind her, I'm like, oh fuck, why are you here? No. And then he just slashes her in. I think he slashes her, right? After, she has her last words, sort of. Slash, toss to the side like nothing, and then he walks up to you. I'm thinking, okay, well, this is where I turn and run, right? Like, nope, you gotta fight him for a little bit. I'm like, I'm not doing that. No, this is stupid. I'm not gonna fight Darth Vader.
No chance. No chance.
No. And I did die against him the first time, but that's only because I didn't see the prompt to, use the environment because he pulled down the canister or something first. I didn't see that prompt. So he did what Darth Vader does and killed me. But after that, when you're just essentially running away from him, I'm thinking to myself, like, he's definitely strong enough to just grab me from across the room and yeet me into a wall. But okay, I'll just keep running. I don't know. At that point, it felt as if he's just like, I can't mimic his voice or anything like that, obviously, but it felt like the equivalent of, I know I can catch you, I know I can get you from like literally across this entire base, but because I know you have nowhere to go, I'm just gonna walk menacingly slowly at you. And I get that because I've done that in games too. when you're overpowered to the point where no enemy scares you anymore, you're just playing with them at that point. That's how I felt with Darth Vader, and rightfully so. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have gone out there the way we did.
I think they really did a good job of portraying how strong he really is.
Yeah.
Like, I never felt he was that strong in the movies, and he was strong in the movies, but I never felt it like that. When you're there and you're like think about it. You spent all this time in this game, you level all these skills up, you got all this force power, and all of a sudden he comes by and it's just like, you did nothing with your life, and he'll just kill you. And it's just unbelievable how well they captured that to me. So good job with them. But that's really what I want to talk about Darth Vader. I just thought that was awesome. And we should talk about the characters too.
To tail that part off, had a slow burn up until the end, but it was more of a rising slope. A rising slope? Is that what I want to say? It didn't plateau. I'd say it plateaued a bit on Zepho, but for the most part, it only kept getting better. So
yeah, so
really
it
good.
starts at climax, goes down, and then it climaxes.
Yep, it does that.
I mean, it's how you expect a story to go.
But
did it.
But to go briefly into the cast of characters real quick, you have the main character Cal Kestis, and then you have BD1. Something about Star Wars are making cute androids. I hate it, but I also love it. He's so cool. I want a BD1. I want all of them just in my room. Just ready for me to be like, yo, guys, let's go out for a walk. You have Sari, who used to be a Jedi, but gave herself over to the dark side for a brief moment. She still technically is on the dark side, but she's trying to fight it. But she doesn't feel like she's like really she doesn't deserve to be a Jedi at that point, because she did give in when she realized that Trilla had turned over to the Empire and whatnot after Siri failed to protect her and keep her from being kidnapped by the Empire, who then tortured Trilla until, they brainwashed her essentially.
I would like to add that's the only reason she escaped. So we should probably count our blessings on that one. But anyway.
Yeah. Then you have Grease, who at first I was like, this guy's a greasy old coot, and he has a gambling problem. Something's gonna happen to me, isn't it? And it does. At some point, I forget. Is he the reason why you get kidnapped?
Oh, at some point, okay, he's it. Yeah. He's the reason.
Because at first I thought like, oh, he's just betting on me and he's not bothering to save me. But it's not like he's the reason I got kidnapped. No, he's the reason you get kidnapped.
He's the reason.
At some point, you get thrown into an arena. Which, by the way, and I know we're gonna talk about gameplay. Well, we've been talking about gameplay a little bit already, but just to go into more detail, the gameplay, in my opinion, I think that was the moment. The main moment for me where the gameplay was like, okay, you better know your shit, because this is not going to be an easy fight. I'm actually happy that they just at some point after you beat the mobs and enemies they throw at you, that they give you a break for a moment. Well, not a break. If you were to die after you beat the mobs and enemies, then you can start from that boss fight at the end of the tournament thing. You don't have to fight through the mobs again. Because fighting through all those mobs at once, I'm like, was the game really designed for me to fight all these mobs at once? Because the gameplay is similar to Dark Souls or Sekiro, more like Sekiro in a way, with some Uncharted-like elements. And obviously, I could take on like 3 enemies at once. Fighting a group of stormtroopers is not hard and whatnot. But when you have these creatures that keep rushing you and whatnot, I'm like, I don't know if this was designed for this moment, but whatever. It's meant to be overwhelming, and I get that. So,
well, what I will say is that I didn't struggle with that part. I played through twice. Second playthrough, much easier. Also, there's like a lightsaber you can get early on if you go to Dathomir early. You can get a lightsaber. Get the dual sword lightsaber, that'll help you. But the fight's hard, but I think it's not too bad. It's balanced in a way, and it definitely gets you that feeling of I'm being overwhelmed by the end of it, because they kind of break you out, right? So
yeah, definitely. It real quick to touch on the lightsaber bit, that I did enjoy that. You can customize your lightsaber in this game. You can customize Cal's appearance and stuff like that. I won't lie, I'm one of those people who would have preferred a game where it's like, oh, it follows like how, was it Knights of the Old Republic, I think? It kind of did, where it's like, oh, this is my character. This is this, the other. And I feel like one day we'll probably get that. But not now. This is Cal's story, and it is canon. So there you go. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But
yeah, to make it canon, I think this is the reason they did it the way they did. But
yeah, which is fair. The lightsabers, though, I really loved customizing Cal's lightsabers and stuff like that, especially down the line when you get extra bits you could add to. He adds to it after like major story moments. Like eventually you get the dual-ended lightsaber style sort of Cal. Well, no, that is the double lightsaber. You just connect it or disconnect it. Never mind. But either way around, I thought that was cool. You can change the color and stuff. Of course, you can't change it to red. Because he's not. Well, you can after you beat the game. After you beat the game, you can be Dark Cal.
Because I played it with red.
True. Moving along though with the supporting cast, you also have Knight's sister Marin, who hated the Jedi for what Taron Malicos told her about them. On top of the fact that he killed her sisters, I don't know much. You say that all that happened, all the stuff she's talking about happened during Clone Wars. Is that what?
Correct. So the whole Night Sister issue was during the Clone Wars series. So you're not going to see them talk about it as much in the game because it's kind of made towards Star Wars fans, I would say.
Yeah, the game.
Assuming you know.
And one of the examples of them doing that, I'm gonna skip over Trilla for a second and just bring him up. I think it's Saul Gura, is he said his name was Forrest Whitaker's character.
Yeah, Saul Guerrera.
Yeah.
Saul Guerrera is in here. You don't know him unless you watched Rebels and Clone Wars. Very strong character though, and throughout the whole series. So he I think they did great. It was cool seeing him here. It was definitely an Easter egg for people that watch the series. It's not, if you don't know who he is, it doesn't impact you negatively. But I think if you do, it just makes you all excited. So
see, I'm starting to realize now how it feels to get marveled when I don't know things, like, because when I guarantee you when Deion or anybody else goes to see like a Marvel movie with me, or if they see it and then they talk to me about it, I'm like, oh, did you see X, Y, and Z in this scene? They did X, Y, and Z in the comics, and they also did it. I know this. I know a lot about Marvel, thanks to my dad and just really going into the Marvel universe in general all throughout my life so far. I didn't do that with Star Wars, so it's kind of cool being on the other side of the wall. Like, okay, there's just this guy right here. Hi, you're Forrest Whitaker. Hi, and then Deion's like, do you have any idea who that is?
Exactly, he's a great character. He's such a big character in the series. I mean, he doesn't have that many episodes, but he's just a very recognizable character.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Cal, because I think we're doing a disservice not talking about him. Cal. Being a Jedi that kind of got away is you learn more about him as you go. His master died. He saw his master die and he escaped the death, right? He got away from those clone troopers that he was friends with, and they really pushed in the fact that he was friends with them. Like, you're walking through the base and they're like talking to you. I'm like, oh man, this is brutal. I already knew it was going to be brutal, but man, that's brutal. But they talk about that and how he goes, and he kind of loses powers because he doesn't use them because he's on the run. And then now that he got discovered, he started using his powers more and started remembering all his training. And he starts off like he was strong, but a scared kid, right? That's how he starts off as a personality. And he slowly grows into a understanding, thoughtful Jedi. That's like his path. Yeah. So you see the growth during the campaign, and I think this game would have not done well if Cal couldn't carry the story. I love the actor, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But if Cal couldn't carry the growth, I think it would have been as strong. But him growing throughout the story, I think just helps with the tone, and it solidifies everything. You couldn't even... Great character. I think there's nothing else to say. It's just, what a great character.
Yeah. I at first I thought Cal was just... Understandably, but I thought Cal was whiny at first, and he was.
Yep.
Yeah,
he was.
He was willing to. Well, after a certain point, willing to, fight back against the Empire, but he didn't realize how much of an undertaking that is. And when he eventually had to when he had to learn more, when he had to essentially dig up those old memories and confront them at some point, because that's where it was leading him. Because the thing holding his powers back wasn't necessarily the fact that he forgot that he could do it. It was the fact that he kind of locked those away along with that traumatic event. So and
he had to face it.
Yeah. So he had to face it at some point. And I like the fact that you lost at first, in that moment. Like, that's it. He breaks the lightsaber, you can't fight anymore. That's it. Then then he has to go and essentially find himself again. And BD1 of all of the characters is like, yo, get your shit together. Like, now technically BD1 isn't the one who says it, but BD1 is the one who helped him find these things, and who I honestly think Cal connected with the most, on a friendship level. Because Sarah, he kind of just sees her as a mentor, one that he has to question a lot because she keeps a lot from him because she doesn't want to bring up the dark side stuff. And Grease is kind of just the old man that.
Do you blame her?
No, I don't. I don't blame her. I would have been pissed too. And then he can't really count on Grease outside of if he wants to shoot the breeze. Grease is the kind of guy that if you want to go drink, you bring Grease. That's how I see it.
I would agree.
But Cal overall, had amazing growth during Fallen Order, and I definitely enjoyed him. I'm interested to see what they do in the future because I'm pretty sure there's going to be another game. I don't know when.
Yeah, I think that's all but confirmed at this point. Yeah. So I'm going to guess 2023, but
I can see that.
Fuck, who knows?
The last one. Oh, wait, we didn't really go. Well, I'm going to touch real quick on Marin real quick, just because we went into detail about what happened on Dathomir, but not about Marin herself. I mean, honestly, there's not much to really say about Marin because she was only really there for the last third of the game for the most part. But for what she was, I liked that she. You couldn't have a Karen like a Karen. You couldn't have a character like Marin in the beginning of the game. You couldn't. Not with the way that Cal was mentally. But by the time you get to her and whatnot, Cal's pretty developed. He's come pretty far. But, this is around the time where he does have to confront his past and whatnot. So after the fact, after he does that, he has a different air about him. So now he can actually, talk it with Marin on equal footing and whatnot, rather than seem like a kid who's just, floundering about. And that's where their dynamic is really cool and whatnot. But otherwise, not much to really say about Marin. There's a lot to say about Trilla, but I'm gonna let you let you throw your 2 cents on that.
Oh, Trilla. Trilla is one of the stronger characters. She's your main antagonist, 100% for the Empire. And you're fighting. She's one of the what do you call those? I can't think of the name, but they're the ones that have been hunting Jedi, and she was basically under. She was her master was Sari, right? So her master was Sari, and she was abandoned by Sari.
Yeah.
And Sari was captured, and I believe what happened was Sari got tortured, and she gave up where Trilla was, and Trilla was watching these younglings, and then Trilla got captured.
Yeah.
And she basically went dark, and then she came up to Sari, and that's when Sari kind of went to the dark side a little bit because she found out that her Padawan was turned. And then so Trilla throughout the game is like tormenting you. You don't know it's Trilla for a little bit of time, but she's like torments you. She's like very sassy, very much like playing with you in the battles, like in the beginning. And she really just grows from there. Like you slowly throughout the game, you learn about her past, why she changed sides. And then it kind of just culminates to her ending where she's like fighting you. She's very angry and she can't forgive until like the very last second where she just finally starts turning back to the light and forgives herself and forgives her master. And of course, Darth Vader calls it a day with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you can understand why she felt the way she did. And I feel like personally, especially when Trilla started just hijacking your comms for a bit, just to taunt you more. I'm like woman, calm down. I left you like how many minutes ago? It's like you just finished talking with someone in person, and then they decide to call you on your drive home. Like, stop! I just saw you.
Yeah, and I will say I think along with Cal, I believe she also carries the story.
Yeah,
I believe they're
two sides of the same coin.
Two together really carry the story, along with the support, the other supporting staff, that cast that kind of adds to the experience. But without those two, I mean, the story wouldn't be anything. So such amazing characters, just those two, unbelievable.
Yeah, I do, and honestly, before we move on, I do think that Trilla definitely did want to go back to the side of the light. I think she wanted to do it sooner. She might, but she felt like she was already in too deep. Yeah. So that's the vibe I got from her at some point. Like Cal, at first, I think it was Kashyyyk. was it Kashyyyk when she finally like takes off the helmet and reveals herself at this area. I think it was Kashyyyk. It was either Kashyyyk. It might have been Zepho. Either one. And she's speaking with Cal and whatnot. That in that moment, no, I think she still very wholeheartedly believes that Cal's just a kid playing hero in this and other. But eventually, once Cal starts getting under her skin, and you can tell what he is, you start seeing cracks where she is still questioning her own actions to an extent. She's just really good at masking it for the most part, and you don't see that falter until towards the end when, well, obviously it's too late because now you're being force choked. I mean, if you didn't want to die with regrets, then she's probably fine with the way she went out, but still. Moving on to our next point, I think this is pretty obvious. It's very, very much a Star Wars game. This game is as true to Star Wars as you can get, in my opinion. I know some people. Mm-hmm. I know people who liked stuff like The Force Unleashed and whatnot, but they're like, but these days, if we're talking about a game that really nails the Star Wars feeling for like right now today, I'm not talking about Knights of the Old Republic and all that because they did it too, but this game really does it very well. Yeah, it nails it. I mean, music there. The way the game progresses, I kind of alluded this to before. The way the game progresses from a slow pace to getting really up, and then the way the characters progress, it is definitely a Star Wars experience. Like it was Star Wars. It felt like Star Wars. Combat felt like Star Wars. Everything, they did a great job with the creatures designs. I mean, the worlds, they just did a really, or the planets, I should say, they just did a really good job of really incorporating that Star Wars feeling, that feeling of exploration. That's a Star Wars thing, and they really hammered it in and home. Great job making a Star Wars game. And speaking of combat, we're going to touch on that just a little bit here, since we've kind of already been talking about this whole time. But this game follows it follows the Souls-like formula or the Dark Souls formula in the sense of you're not really approaching like rooms of enemies, or it doesn't play like how you would play Devil May Cry. It plays like how you would play a Dark Souls game with the way they filter in enemies. You could, if you're good enough, fight a slew of enemies, just aggro them all and then fight them all right there. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you're just that badass. I'm not. Right. Some of those, you actually do. I feel like if I was playing someone like Darth Vader or Anakin, spoiler, same person. But if I was playing him, or if I was playing Obi-Wan or somebody, I would have felt like I should not be getting owned by stormtroopers. What the fuck? But you're playing as. But they do Cal. Though. But that's what I'm saying. You're playing as Cal, who is essentially a Padawan. He's not a Jedi until Saray knights him once he's once he's in the right place mentally and physically to be able to earn that title. But until then, you're a Padawan floundering about, and you feel that because he gets smacked around a lot. And you have these stormtroopers that come out of nowhere with like these really cool tools, and you can tell they fought Jedi before. Obviously, 66 happened. Because sometimes you'll be using the Force to push them or pull them, and they'll do something as they're getting pulled and shoot you as they're getting pulled. I'm like, the fuck? I thought I had you. Nope, I didn't. Some of those dudes are really tough. Like the dude with the I could never fight the dude with the shock things, the purple shock. Batons. Like the vibro sabers or whatever they call them. Yes, electro sabers. They were tricky because I would try to like force push them, and they'll just hold their ground. I'm like, okay. I guarantee you, if I was a different Jedi, if I was Yoda, I would have fucked your shit. I'm just saying. I think those characters were just stronger too, which just makes sense. But I do think I think the game matches what you'd expect from Jedi's fighting. Like if you watch any of the the movies, especially with Order 66, which was a little weird anyway. Yeah. But the Jedi did get killed by stormtroopers, right? Yeah. Not stormtroopers, they're clowns at that time. Yeah. When the clones got decommissioned, they became stormtroopers, blah, blah,
I do think they captured that well, and I think the Dark Souls style fits well. But there is a piece of me that wished it wasn't Dark Souls because of the enemies respond, and I think that feels great in Dark Souls because that's what it's supposed to do. But in this game, I would have been okay without that part of the element because it just felt a little cheap on that piece for me. But other than that, I mean, I think the combat felt. I think even though they kind of took it away from Dark Souls, right? They took inspiration from that, but I just feel like they made it fit the Star Wars feel. It's a little easier, of course, in Dark Souls, but they made it feel that you can't just run through a horde of enemies. You have to fight them. You have to take your time. You have to think about how you're going to plan an attack, and they definitely got that part of it.
Yeah.
People were very worried when the game was coming out that it was going to be Force Unleashed again. Really, just go run in and you kill everything, but it just isn't. And I think they did a good job of balancing that.
Yeah. Before we move on that note about the respawning enemies, I personally feel like a good excuse for why the enemies kept returning and whatnot is they, outside of a few creatures and whatnot, you could realistically just imagine that there's someone different in those suits all the time when they show up, and that leads into B when I kind of just justified it by saying, well, I just spent all this time meditating on a rock for God knows how long. No doubt stormtroopers are going to come back into the area and be like, wonder what happened here. I should just hold this post and do X, Y, and Z. And then with creatures and whatnot, well, creatures don't care. You'll be meditating there, and then they'll just crawl back to a new one will just crawl into that spot and be like, this is a cool spot to sit.
Right, that's true. I mean, it's valid. I don't think it's unvalid. I just don't. I don't find it fun facing the same enemies over and over again. So that was my part of it.
At that point, that's just it's there for grinding. At that point, which you don't. The game really doesn't. In my opinion, you don't really have to, unless you're, especially if you fight I'm gonna say if you fight the right enemies and whatnot. And get the most, min-max essentially who you're fighting, so that you can get enough experience to level up, to get an ability point to spend on an ability that isn't currently locked because Cal doesn't remember it yet. But outside of that, the big question here is, or one of the questions here is, was the game finished? Personally, I feel like the game needed more time in the oven, not in terms of content, but in terms of how ready it was, essentially. I feel like if it had another month or two, a lot of the bugs I personally encountered, Deion didn't, strangely enough.
Twice. I played through twice. I'm just saying.
Everyone else I've talked to who's played this game has said they've come into bugs that made it kind of janky and whatnot. He got lucky. It didn't encounter them
twice.
He's the 1%, ladies and gentlemen. I personally feel like if they had delayed it for or just didn't release it for another month or two and really focused on fixing some of that jank, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But unfortunately, around the same time, a month later, Rise of the Skywalker would have been coming out, so it's obvious that they wanted to get those releasing as close together as possible. That's the bummer for me, because I feel like if it wasn't tied to being released around that movie, then it probably would have been fine on a technical level. But instead, what I got was some janky pathing from AI, which depending on where I'm at, I can forgive it. But when I'm right behind an enemy and they're shooting at something else, and I'm I'm behind you. You lost me because I climbed down, but I climbed back up. You should turn around and know I'm right here. But whatever. I encountered that. I encountered a moment where I had a button prompt for a QTE getting stuck on the screen while I was fighting. So the game thought I was still in the middle of a QTE, but I got knocked out of it. So the button was still flashing and I couldn't do anything else at that moment but spam that button that wouldn't lead to anything, so the stormtroopers just killed me right then and there. The light, this is more of an art thing at this point, but there was light flickering through walls in this thing and other, and I think that might have to do with the fact that I was running the game on medium settings. If I ran them on high settings, maybe those kinds of bugs that happen with lighting and stuff wouldn't have happened. But I just noticed that there was a lot of light flaring into rooms and whatnot. Sometimes, depending on where I was at. Um, my favorite one that I managed to catch was Broken Fingers Trilla, where as she's like grabbing I forget it. I forget what it is. It's one of those items that BD1 and Cal or Cal and BD1 were hunting down, and then Trilla. Yeah, it was that cube thing. I think I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a cube thing, and she force grabbed it.
Yeah, she
force pulled it to you.
Yeah,
to her.
She force pulled it to her, and for some reason her fingers got really janky there, in a way that I'm like, oh no, I have to catch this. So I caught it and sent it to Deion, and he still couldn't believe it. But it was there. I'm like, I came across this, and I tried to look it up and see if anyone else did. No one else did. So I don't know. It just she decided to break her fingers there. But that's whatever. And then there's like pathing that can make dodging, dodging some attacks ridiculous. But at that point, I blamed like that on the last Trilla fight, because she has a moment where she dashes at you to like, I'm gonna say she does something. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna say it's like a mind break or something like that. Because
I never got caught, so I couldn't tell you. Sorry.
It's whatever. She does that. It's not like Darth Vader's force choke or whatever. It's like she grabs you and then kind of just does something with the force to your mind and you die. I'm assuming she essentially just overloads your brain and you go, oh, and you die. Obviously without blowing up your brain, because Star Wars doesn't do gore necessarily. But I blamed it on that. But honestly, I feel like that could fall into any category in the game, because I didn't encounter it often. I do know that pathing can be awkward, and when an enemy locks onto you and they want to dash at you and whatnot, but you're doing something weird, that can cause some weird stuff to happen. Like if you were to jump at the last minute, an enemy might freak out. Like, I don't know where he went. I don't know where he went until I come back. But that's just an example of what could happen. And when I went back to replay that scene, I didn't see it as clearly. I just know it felt like that happened. But, case in point, I just got caught there. Regardless of how awkwardly she pathed to get to me. By the way around, I feel like the game could have benefited from more time in the oven anyway, just to knock out a few more of those bugs. But, it is what it is. The game still turned out great. I just hope with the next one, Actually, no. I'm pretty sure with the next one, whenever that happens, if we were to go with your estimation of a 2023 probably release date, if they were to do it, then I don't see any Star Wars movie on the horizon. So probably
and I would say there probably will be a Star Wars movie. Sorry,
I say I don't see one right now. I should say
there will be one. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
I mean, I heard they're already doing it. They already have a plan for another trilogy. So I know that part. I'm just hoping that it's not like, okay, now we're gonna release these games on the same day. No, don't you rush Respawn on this.
Well, I think Respawn's already working on a new one. I think that's confirmed.
They're working on a new one.
I think they're already working on the next Star Wars, so I don't think it's gonna be an issue. I do think we're playing this game. This is my second time. I played it at release. Obviously, I didn't get any bugs, as I said. Second time, I did get one bug, actually. The bug of like a lightsaber. After your lightsaber's broken, I was able to ignite it, but it wouldn't be used, so it went in my pocket ignited. So I just had a red lightsaber around me all the time.
That's
very
funny.
Interesting. But there wasn't many. I didn't face that many bugs, but I do feel like, obviously I've heard about all the bugs that people were facing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just. You would have expected them to patch it by now too, but
yeah.
We're playing it really late. I just thought it'd be patched by this time, but maybe they just didn't feel like it's the right investment. The game's good.
Yeah.
I do think I will have to agree that the bugs take it down, even though I always say, oh, I didn't face any bugs, it was perfect. But, there are bugs. Let's just be honest here.
Yeah. So now we're going to just go ahead and go with our closing thoughts here. I personally feel like, in a nutshell, if you ever pictured Uncharted and Sekiro with lightsabers, this is the game you want to play. Great story, characters, and combat that left me wanting more, to be completely honest. And I'm very excited for the sequel. Obviously, we both are. Deion, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, one, I think we need to highlight the story and the characters are by far the most amazing parts of the game to me. I thought just put me into the game. Really, story amazing, great story, great characters. I hope they can continue that. It's hard to replicate that sometimes in a sequel. So I would, because where do you go, right? Because the character's developed now. So how do you get him to the next path? So I love that. It keeps. And I think the combat too. The combat's great. And I think the combination of those three things really leave me wanting more. And of course, just like you said, I'm pretty excited for a sequel. I recommend this game wholeheartedly. Whatever it costs today, I paid $60, and I would pay $60 tomorrow.
And he does not do that often.
Any other day to play that game. I don't pay $60 for games, but I would have paid $60 again for that game. I loved it that much, and I can't recommend it any more than that. I mean, it is what, 20 hours.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit less
roughly.
than that, 15 hours.
Yeah.
So it's not super long, but I was worth every penny, and I think it's great game. That's all I can say. Great game. Can't wait for number 2.
Definitely.
So with that, I think it's time to close out. So I just thank you everyone for listening. That's what we got for now. Thanks for listening to DuoQueue. And next time you're waiting for a party or searching for a lobby, feel free to tune in again while you wait. Until then, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And if that tickles your fancy, see ya.
Bye.